Okay, so the whole idea of tonight is to show people how they don't have to go on a diet, but everyone realises they've got to look after their nutrition a bit to get in shape, don't you? And the first thing I want to get across to most people is training or using physical exercise to lose weight works if you can do enough of it. And I'm going to give you a bit of an idea of how much you have to do to lose body fat when you're training. So check out, my metabolism must be fairly good because I don't really look over fat, or too bad, And you have a look at a lot of athletes. The very top ones, like say Hamish Carter, when they're ready, don't know if you know, he's a top triathlete. When they're ready for a championship event, they're very, very lean. It's because they've been doing so much training and they're looking at their nutrition as well. So I was about what you call an average Kiwi sort of guy, and I was about 12 to 15, 16%. And I went to the gym and I trained a while, and my body fat dropped off, and then it came back on again. And so I trained a bit harder and it dropped off again and it came back on again, because your body adapts to exercise and it just figures out a better way, a more less stressful way of just keeping your same weight. Because your body, when you're a certain weight, you're at a certain weight you are now, your body thinks that's normal. If you think back, your body weight, if it's been creeping on, it's been creeping on slow, right? It's just been sneaking on, yeah. And so if you lose a lot of weight quick, your body goes, hey, this isn't right, let's get back to the normal weight. See, so it's always trying to get back. So you have to be, if you're going to drop your weight, you need to drop it for like 6 months or a year. Then the body thinks, hey, this is normal. And then you'll actually, if you go a bit overweight, it'll come back down. So that's a normal thing, okay? Anyway, when I first started running, I lost some more body fat, but it came back on again as my body adapted and got more efficient at running. So I ran a bit further and I started to do like a half marathon, and I lost a bit of body fat, but it came back on again. Then I started triathlons, which was a bit more training, and I lost some more body fat and it came back on again. I always kept staying the same way. I got fitter and faster, and my body became good at running, but the body fat would come back on. So then I did a Olympic distance triathlon, which required more training. And then I did a half Ironman down in Tauranga, which required a lot more training. But even then, my body would come back to 12, 15% body fat, probably around about 12, and which was my normal weight before I started even training, my normal body fat weight. And then I did an Ironman. Now, an Ironman is really long. It takes 9 or 10 or 11 hours to complete an Ironman, so you need a lot of training to do that. And I got up to 30 hours of training a week, which is a part-time job. So, I was training 6 days a week and having 1 day off. And there's either 2 things to do. There's either a 10K swim in the morning and a 30K run, or the next day might be a 200-kilometre bike ride and then a 4 or 5 or 10K run around the block. So there's a lot of hours in it, right? Finally, I could not eat enough to make up for all the energy I was expending. So that's how much exercise you really got to do. And there's me with a reasonable sort of metabolism, which, by the way, we all seem to have, so the scientists tell us. So I had to do a hell of a lot of training to do that. And it took up a lot of time, and yet got me lean and got me fit, and it was great. But then I started doing other things. I quit that because it's so hard. And I did something called powerlifting, and I found that I went back to 12% body fat. And if I trained really hard, I could get leaner, but it had to train really hard and a lot. And then I did bodybuilding, and I found I had to train a lot, train a lot, train a lot. And then I learned about nutrition. And suddenly, my body fat went zero, and I got it right down to 4, 5, 6% for a bodybuilding competition. Because I finally understood how to get lean, okay? If you know how to get down to 4% body fat and not lose any muscle, you could pretty much say that you've got it figured out how to get lean, right? So, and what I found was, in the end, with my bodybuilding, I found I got my training right down to 2 workouts a week. So I trained for 50 minutes on Monday and 50 minutes on Thursday. That was it. And it was just weight training. There was no cardio, no walking, no running, no cycling, no nothing else. And I just did nutrition, got it right, ate every 3 hours, balanced the meals correctly, and I got really lean and I wasn't hungry. And I had plenty of energy for the competitions. And I found the less I trained and the better I ate, the better I did at the competitions. And so after a while, people started going, boy, you must train 2 times a week, 2 times a day to do that. You know, I could never have that sort of time. And I'd tell them, you know, I don't really train very much, I'll just get this bit right. They go, oh yeah, and they don't believe me. So, and then when I show them nutrition after they've been training in the gym a while, and they have these amazing results after 1 or 2 weeks, when they might have been training for 6 months and not really getting much at all, then they know the power of nutrition, you know, and getting it right. So what I'm going to show tonight is what I've discovered. You know, how do you get lean and not starve yourself and go on some crazy diet? Because a diet is crazy. Now I'm going to hand out these here, and you take them home with you. And it's got all the info on there that you need.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what you got here, and I need my glasses, is about 4 pages. The first page we're going to find out about proteins, carbohydrates and fats and what they do when we eat them. And the second page we've got a GI index. On the third page we've got EFT. EFT is a technique that I can teach you and you can use to get rid of cravings. So we won't go into that tonight, but I just want to let you know about it. And on the back it's got more stuff about protein, carbohydrates, and some stuff about water. You need to keep hydrated. But we don't want to get this, so those are all topics. Drinking water is a topic. Fat, learning about fat is another topic. And EFT, or emotional freedom technique, that's another topic again. What we're going to cover tonight is proteins and carbohydrates, because those are the main 2 you need to worry about. The rest you can get away with. You must be getting away with it. You must be drinking enough water or you'd be thirsty. So I'm going to cover proteins and carbohydrates tonight. The first thing I'm going to cover is proteins. And if you have a look at this list here on the proteins, you've got lean mince, lean steak, lean ham, lean lamb, chicken, turkey, snapper, gurnet, salmon, tuna, crayfish, mussels, shrimps. That's all flesh, isn't it? It's all meat, yeah. Now don't worry if you're not a meat eater here. I just want to explain what protein does when you eat it, okay? Now there's some other proteins that what we call complete proteins. There's egg whites here. Now the egg yolks, you notice I put over in the fat column over here? Because there's something you can separate. You can take the fat out of an egg. Cottage cheese is about the only low-fat protein you'll get in the form of cheese. All the other cheeses over here, hard cheese, cream cheese, and that sort of cheese is pretty high saturated fat. Not that there's anything wrong with saturated fats, but it's just in the column it belongs. And protein powders, you all heard of whey protein? Protein powders, a lot of weight trainers and gym people use them, and they're really handy for getting into shape. And I'll explain more about them later. And there's protein bars. These are protein bars here. They say energy bars, they're actually protein bars. There's not much energy in them, it's just protein. And they taste like chocolate. So they're all on the protein side there. Now, we're going to talk about protein now. If you eat protein, say I had a piece of chicken and I just chew it up, nothing else, I eat this chicken, it's going to go down into here, and my stomach's going to go, oh, here's some protein here, let's metabolize it, turn it into something, do something with it. And it's going to break it down into its smallest forms, which are called amino acids. And amino acids do millions of things in your body, but we'll just focus on the one thing that I want you to focus on tonight. What's your body going to do with those amino acids? You use amino acids to rebuild your muscles, your muscle tissue. Okay, so you're breaking down muscle all the time, you're breaking down cells all the time, and they're regenerating all the time. So give them some decent amino acids to rebuild themselves with. And why do you want to rebuild your lost muscle tissue? Because muscle is the engine that burns body fat. So you need muscle to burn body fat. If you want to get leaner and get toned, you want good muscle. At least you don't want to lose any. You want all you can get. So where are we up to? Oh, that process of breaking down the protein and doing something with it is called metabolism. And metabolism comes at an energy cost. So when you eat protein and you digest it and do something with it, it costs you energy. Now there's no energy in the meat that you've eaten, so you've got to rob your body of energy to metabolize it, which means you get leaner. If you eat protein every 3 hours, about 15 grams, you're going to get leaner. It's like training from the inside out. So that's one of the tricks with protein. It's a really good thing to get every meal because it's going to do, it's going to cost you an energy expenditure just to metabolize it. But the other thing that protein does, it inhibits the release of insulin. Insulin is a hormone that your body releases when you get too many sugars, and it turns those sugars into body fat. And so it's a double-edged sword for getting lean, protein is, and that's how we use it. I use it like a supplement, a supplement to get lean. I think, what protein am I going to have and what other food I'm going to have with it? That's basically the best way to go. Now, so that's about protein. It's a really handy thing to have, protein. So you know what proteins are now? It's basically flesh, it's meat, and it's, this could be longer. I just made it this long to fit on the list here, eh? So it's fish and chicken and tuna and things like that. Now here, over here we've got another list. It's called carbohydrates. And right beside it we've got low calorie carbohydrates. So we've got high calorie carbohydrates and low calorie carbohydrates. Now, I'll just discuss what carbohydrates do first. If you have a look here, we've got potatoes, potatoes, kurma, yams, squash, pumpkin, brown rice, oatmeal, beans, corn, melons, oranges, all fruit, yogurt, whole wheat bread, low-fat milk, and sugar. I've got all those in the high-calorie carbohydrate list. Now, the sugar in potatoes is starch. There's a lot of starches there. Then you get down to the fruit. You've got fructose, is the sugar in there. Get down to low-fat milk. Lactose is the sugar in milk. And you get down to sugar, and we've got sucrose in there. So they're all sugars. Basically, that column for me, in my brain, is just sugar. And here's why. If I eat that potato, down it goes into my stomach, and the stomach's going to go, yahoo, here comes some energy. And your body's going to break it down into glycogen, which is your blood sugar. And glycogen is the fuel for your brain, so you know when you've got plenty of glycogen, your blood sugars are nice and steady. You think clearly, and you have energy to do stuff. When your blood sugar's low, like sort of a couple of hours after lunch in the afternoon, you're foggy-brained, you haven't got much energy, you don't feel like doing anything. Anyone had that feeling?
Yeah.
After Christmas lunch, maybe? And do you tend to go for chocolate things and sweet things after that in the afternoon? Yeah, that's the time to go for a day, because your blood sugar's low and it's sending a message trying to get it back up again. And we go for something sweet and chocolatey usually. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you need those carbohydrates, and your body's going to break down that potato and turn it into glycogen. Now, it wouldn't matter if you ate fruit, it's going to turn it into glycogen. It's going to turn the fructose into glycogen. Wouldn't matter if you had milk, it's going to turn the lactose into glycogen. Wouldn't matter if you had sugar, it's going to turn the sucrose into glycogen. So in the end, it turns up to be blood sugar. So it doesn't really matter whether it's starch or whatever, it's just sugar. That's the best way to look at it. If it doesn't bleed, it gives you energy. That's about how it works, just about. Now, what I want to show you is the difference between these high calorie and these low calorie foods. For instance, I don't know, but I think is that around about a cup of potato? Might be a bit bigger, eh? I don't know. But anyway, if that was baked, it would go shrivel up a bit and be about a cupful then, right? Well, that's going to give you, and I've got at the top here, 30 grams of carbohydrates. To me, that means 30 grams of sugar, like that. And that, because there's 4 calories in every gram, that's 120 calories there. 120 calories. Now, if you have a look across at the low-calorie carbohydrates over here, if you have a look at the top one, it's got broccoli. I'll show you the same amount of energy in broccoli. Here it is. Here's the same amount of energy in broccoli. You think you could eat all that? Yeah, so see, these watery fibrous type of things, they're really low in calories. And so if you just did one thing, took the potato off your plate tonight and put all that on, or a third of it, you'd fill your plate up, but you wouldn't be getting near the calories. And I'll show you why you don't want all those calories at night soon. Now, also I'm going to give you the equivalent of carrots. That potato, here's the equivalent of carrots, that potato. And this is actually a watery fibrous type of vegetable as well, but it looks kind of fleshy because you see the high calorie carbohydrates look like fleshy ones, and the other ones usually look like stalky things like green beans and cabbages and stuff. But even carrots are quite low in energy. And so 1 cup of carrots will only give you 4 grams. So, you know, you can make some better choices, eh? And that's one of the reasons people kind of avoid bread and potato and kumaras and rice when they want to lose weight, because they're just so dense, full of energy. So you don't have to stop eating them, but you just got to be careful about them. That's all, you know. You shouldn't stop eating anything. You should just want you to be aware of, you know, what might be happening on your dinner plate. So a better portion would be about that, you know. That's enough energy there for 3 hours. Incredible, eh? I bet you we don't eat that little in carbohydrates, though. So that's the difference between the high calorie carbohydrates and the low calorie carbohydrates, or high calorie sugars and low calorie sugars. It means the same thing. Now, a little story about the carbohydrates here. So you've just seen that, okay, different foods are going to give you more energy than others. But what I want to go through now is, how does this food affect your blood sugar? And that's where we go to the next page here. It's called the glycemic index. This one here. Now, don't want you to get too hung up on the glycemic index. I'm just using this to show you and give you a bit of an idea what's going on. Now, the lower the number, the lesser the effect on blood sugar. We're just talking about the blood sugar at the moment, and we'll get to it soon. But if you ate peanuts, which is right down the bottom of the list there, it's only a 14, so it's a very low number, 14. So if you eat peanuts, it releases its energy slowly into your bloodstream. And insulin's not going to really be affected, and you're probably not going to store any body fat from it. But if you have a look at the under end of the scale, you've got glucose here at 100. So years ago, they thought, what is the most refined food that releases its energy into the body the quickest? And it was glucose. So they gave it a score of 100. And everything else in between has a number. Since then, they've found that there's things like maltose and maltodextrins. You know, they've invented some more foods, and they're 105. If you look on the internet now, you'll see foods around 120. You've got to wear dark glasses on your feet to look at them. So really, really refined. So now you'll find you've got a low GI index, a medium GI index, and a high GI index. Now our ancestors, 10,000 years ago and beyond, would have, because we only invented fire about 10,000 years ago, so no food was processed by heat before that. We must have evolved eating raw food over millions of years. And if you have a look at apples and pears here, where are they? Around about 38. That's in the low, 38. If you'd been an ancestor, you would have got up and looked for food all day. And you might have found the ancestor to a potato on the ground and eaten it raw. So, you know, it would have been a low GI food like maybe apples and pears, only a 38. It wouldn't have affected your blood sugar. And your blood sugars would have gone up a bit like this. Here's a graph. Say that's your normal blood sugar there, and you eat a raw potato or an apple or something, it comes up and drops back down again. Then you get some more food and it comes up and drops back down again. And so our ancestors' blood sugar would have been above the normal line all the time, or on the line, okay? And that's what we want. The ancestor would have grazed all day. He would have found this raw potato, and then he would have found some nuts and berries, and then he would have eaten, by the way, all the meat he would have had would have been raw as well, so if they'd killed any animals, and by the looks of it, they had everything from rats to sloths to mammoths. So, you know, they ate everything. And apparently what they ate, because mostly, by the way, was things like open up here, heart, lungs, that sort of stuff, which is, by the way, is really, really high in saturated fat. We evolved on high saturated fat foods. And apparently the mammoths that they may have killed by, you know, running them into a big hole with spikes in or something, they just ate the tongues. They probably wouldn't even be able to cut through the hides, so they just took the tongue. It was great, great big tongue full of meat, full of fat. Eat it, and when you eat high saturated fat foods and protein, you feel satisfied for a long time. I don't know if you ever have tried this, but if you ate just a pasta meal or just rice on its own, and you know, especially if it's been cooked, half an hour later, you could probably go eat it again. You're hungry. But if you put some meat with it, say some mince on it, or put some meat with it, you're satisfied for hours. So that's the thing that protein does. It keeps you satisfied for a long time. Sorry to get back off carbohydrates and back on protein, but I just remembered that. Now, okay, but we don't eat raw potatoes, eh? Oh, by the way, those ancestors, they would have grazed all day and their blood sugar level would have been like this. And at night, when the sun went down, they would have dropped down and they would have gone to sleep and they wouldn't have eaten anymore. When the sun went down, they wouldn't have eaten and they would have gone to sleep. They would have been finding somewhere safe to sleep, out of the dark, away from the saber-toothed tiger. 30% of us was getting eaten, you know, we were on the diet. So, you know, we would have been finding somewhere to safe and we would have been sleeping and we would have gone to sleep without eating food, but we would have grazed all day, so we're fine. Now imagine, at a certain time of the year, those ancestors are wandering around and suddenly there's all these fruit trees and they're dropping fruit down. Well, you're going to stop looking for potatoes and berries and trying to kill animals because there's fruit all over the ground and it's a change in diet. Well, that'll be choice, wouldn't it? So you're going to go and grab all this fruit and you're just going to sit there and eat it. And guess what your blood sugar is going to do now with all that fructose? You get, because fruit, especially ripe fruit, is going to release its energy fast and your energy is going to go up by that. Or that's your glucose, I should say. Your blood sugar is going to go high. And your body's going to go, crikey, blood sugar's levels up here. Let's get hold of that extra fuel. We'll release insulin, the fat-making hormone, and we'll get it all, we'll drop the blood sugar low, and we'll store some body fat. Now, for the first time all year, their blood sugar is low. When your blood sugar is low, what do? You feel sleepy and lethargic, you know? Me, after Christmas lunch, I snooze on the couch and I snore away and I don't feel like doing anything. Does anyone know what that feels like? Now, insulin drops your blood sugar low and makes you feel sleepy and lethargic for a reason. You can't store body fat if you're burning body fat. So once you're sleepy, lethargic and inactive, okay, now you can store body fat. So if you feel like that, for God's sake, get up and go for a walk. Even though you don't feel like it, because you want to reverse that. You don't want to do that. Yeah. So, but, you know, we're all lazy. Go, oh, it's just this once, and you have a snooze. Now you have a snooze and you're storing some body fat, and then you wake up. Well, I wake up and I'm going, phew, I'm still full for that big Christmas lunch. But I'm hungry. So I head for the freezer and of the fridge and I'm looking for cheesecake. It's funny how you're looking for something sweet now, you know. And so you get your cheesecake and boing, up it goes again. And then insulin goes, oh, high blood sugar, quick, drop it back down, and down it goes again. You're feeling all lousy again, you know. But dinner time's coming along, you don't feel like cooking anything, eh? So what do? You heat up all the leftovers. And up it goes again. And then you go to sleep on it. It drops back down and you go to sleep. You make body fat all night now. See what we're doing here? Well, here's the ancestors doing the same thing. They eat all those apples under the tree or whatever. Insulin's released, they have a snooze under the tree and make body fat for the famine. That's how we got this thing, isn't it? You know, we evolved this way. And then they wake up and they're hungry, they eat some more fruit and they make some more body fat for the real famine that's really going to happen. So they really are putting on body fat, so they need to get through the hard times. See how it kind of fits in? This is the same thing that we're doing. So what we've got to do, if we want to get lean, is we've got to go, how can we eat so that our blood sugars are like this? How can we stop this fat-making thing? We're all burning body fat all the time, just sitting here. We're burning body fat for fuel. This is called low-intensity exercise. Low-intensity exercise burns body fat. But we're doing this with our incorrect eating patterns. And we're making body fat here for breakfast, here and there for dinner. So we, you know, the 3 big meals tends to do that. Do you get that sort of picture there? I might rub that out. Made a terrible job of it. Because the first time I've done it on the thing. So let's have a look at that potato again. That raw potato would have been around about 38. Now if you have a look at 62, can you see that? Or is it... yeah, it is. It's 62. Boiled potatoes. So we've knocked it up, haven't we? It's 62. Now it's in the moderate, so it's going to release its energy faster. Have I explained this right so far?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we put the potato in a pot, we put it over the heat, we boil it, and we break down the molecular structure of the potato. It's not hard anymore, it's softer. And when it's softer, it's more easily digested. When it's more easily digested, it releases its energy faster into the bloodstream. The quicker you release it into the bloodstream, the more insulin you're going to be released, and it's more likely you are to store it as body fat. So we just changed a perfectly good raw potato, boiled it, which is a process, and we've made it higher. Now, what if you go over to 85? What do you see there? Potato baked, no fat. It's right up with glucose now, and the very high. Says what we've done with that potato is we've chucked it in the oven, turned it up to 200 degrees or whatever, and cooked it for half an hour or whatever. And the longer you cook, the more crispy it gets on the outside, and the fluffier it gets on the inside, the more beautiful it gets. But boy, does it get really, really high GI. And you might as well just be eating straight glucose now. So you eat the baked potato on its own. Is that going to affect your blood sugar? You know, and when do we get baked potatoes? At night. Our metabolism is slowing down. We put baked potatoes in our meal, and then we go to sleep on it. So, you know, maybe cook it less is a better idea. So, and when you go to restaurants now, you find that the foods and vegetables are way less cooked than they used to be. They're really quite crispy. That's the way to have them, and you don't get that blood sugar effect so much. So be careful not to overcook. That's another good little tip. So you see how this works now? Now what happened was, I saw this little study done by a guy, just a nobody guy who knew about this type of nutrition, and he thought he'd test it for himself. So what he did is he got one of those diabetic things where you prick your finger and you put it on the screen and it tells you your blood sugar. Okay? Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
Diabetic season? And here's a little graph he did. He didn't eat for an hour to find out what his normal blood sugar was, and it was sort of around about X, who knows what it was. And then he ate an apple, and his blood sugar, and he checked it every like 5 or 10 minutes, and he came up with a graph. The apple brought his blood sugar up, and then it dropped back down to normal like that. So that's what an apple did. And he thought, right, when he got back to normal, I'll try something, you know, bad. So he went and got a Mars bar. And a Mars bar made it go like this, doing. Insulin was released, it dropped down low. He refused to eat again until his blood sugar was level again. So here's the fat-making thing. This is exaggerated, but you can see what I mean, eh? The Mars bar released its energy faster, so there was an insulin response. Insulin was released, and dropped his blood sugar low. So he sort of felt a little bit sleepy, lethargic, a little bit lousy. Everyone knows what that feeling's like. Kind of no energy. By the way, when you've got no energy, what do? Go and eat some energy, thinking you're going to get some energy? It just does this again to you, and you need to go eat again. So it's a real trap. Now, the next thing he grabbed was, they thought, oh, I better eat something like really healthy. And back then, these were new. These were in the health food stores. They're, well, these are black ones, rice delights. They're rice cakes, aren't they? Rice cakes. And if you have a look at the label on here, it says, oh, no fat, you know, no sugar, no nothing, you know. And, but there's about 12 grams of carbs in them. And he ate 5 of them. Why he had to eat 5 of them was because he wanted to equal the same amount of calories as the Mars bar, which was 50 grams. So he ate 5 of them, and his blood sugar went the same as the Mars bar, like that. Do you reckon you know why? Because these are they're supposed to be healthy, right? So what happened was...
Process.
Yeah, the process. Now have a look on your GI thing there, and have a look at rice. It's somewhere around here. I think you'll find Calrose rice is around about 80 something. Every type of rice in there is all in the high, isn't it? It's already high, and now you process it. I mean, you turn rice into polystyrene beads in the shape of a wheel. Is that a process? That's a big process, eh? So these are actually going to be really, really high GI. They're going to be way over 100. They're going to be way past glucose. Maybe these are going to be one of the 110, 120. I don't know. But you try 5 rice cakes by themselves and see what effect you have on it, you know. And I'm not saying stop eating these, just be aware of it, because there's tricks we can do and you still eat your rice cakes. I have them, but I know what to put with them so it doesn't affect me like that. And that's what I want to teach you tonight. Because you want to be able to eat everything. If you go on a diet, diets are usually restrictive, aren't they? It's like, oh, don't eat that. And as soon as you say, oh, I'm not going to eat that, what do you want to do? We're not going to be able to eat it, you know. So you start for a while and you finally quit the diet so you can go and eat the thing that you said you couldn't eat. So it's absolutely a waste of time. You should be able to allowed to eat everything you want, but choose a day you're going to do it. You know, just be disciplined a bit. And because if you say, yeah, I do get to eat it, and I get to eat it on Sunday, you can relax about it. There's the emotional part of it out of the way now. You still get to have it, you know. And by the way, when you say I can have it, you don't need it. You don't need it. It's amazing. Now the next thing he had was a Snickers bar. So I figured when he did this test, well, Snickers bar is going to be the same as a Moro bar, right? But it wasn't. It was the same as an apple. Low GI. A Snickers bar. I'm not saying go out and buy a Snickers bar, but if you had a choice between a Mars bar and a Snickers bar, go get the Snickers. So it just shows you don't know what it really has an effect. But you can pretty quickly work out why the Snickers bar was less than the Morrow's bar. Because the Snickers bar is basically a Morrow's bar with a whole bunch of peanuts in it, isn't it? And did you see peanuts there? They're really low GI, yeah. So what he's done is he's put the low GI peanuts with a high GI Mars bar. Together they make a medium GI meal. So he's lowered the glycemic index because he's put protein or something, because there's protein and fat in peanuts, and they're low GI. So when you mix them with something high GI and you put them in together in one meal, now you've got a medium GI meal. And he goes, aha, so that's how this balance your nutrition with protein thing works. You just balance 50% meat or protein with 50% carbs, and you get the balance right, and then you get leaner. But at the same time, you're having a decent sized meal. So the Snickers bar was the same size as the Morrow bar. He just made a better choice. He didn't know it at the time, but he certainly knew it now after seeing what his blood sugars did. So that was a really interesting little test, and I always remember it because it's a great way of explaining how balancing your meals can make a huge difference. And we really don't know what we're eating until you actually went and did your pricky finger thing. But you don't have to do all that. All you have to do is say, okay, are these high calorie carbohydrates? Yep, okay, better get some protein with them. That's the easiest way to do this program. Now, what haven't I explained here? Oh, I didn't actually explain that protein is not on this GI list at all, is it? It's not here. The reason protein's not on there is because there's no sugar in it. So all protein is going to be lower than the peanuts. Protein must be, there's no sugar in it. It can't give you an insulin response, there's no sugar in it. So protein is low GI, all protein is low GI. That's why I've gone back to this page one here. This is all low GI, this is basically all high GI. Make sure you get a low GI with a high GI one, and you'll lower the glycemic index of the meal, and it'll stop you making more body fat than you're burning off, which means you get leaner every day, every night, while you're sitting down watching TV, when you're asleep in bed, you're getting leaner and leaner and leaner, until you're the weight you're supposed to be. All you have to do is get your blood sugars like this, like the ancestors were, not have it swinging around, and you'll get leaner. Without much exercise. Because 85%, I reckon 90% of getting in shape is what you put in here, and 10% is the exercise bit. And what do we mostly do? Eat incorrectly and try and make up for it with the little 10% bit. We give that 10% bit 100%. And we only get 10% results. If you came over to the nutrition side here and gave it 10%, you're going to get 90% results. You're going to get way better results. It's going to be a huge change just by changing it a little bit. And some people don't do this nutrition I show them, but by understanding it, can't help it. They end up getting leaner, simply because they know now and they can go, oh, crikey, and they just make better choices. They don't intend to change. They just do because they are now a little bit more knowledgeable about it. Okay. Now, if you go back to page 1 here, up the top, let's get my glasses on. It's got current nutrition, and what we used to do, I get all my trainers together and we'd say, right, we'll get these people together and we'll find out what time they have breakfast and what time they have their second meal and what time they have their third meal and what they have, and we'll break it down into portions. We'll break it down into portions of protein, so if that was full of meat, that would be called a portion of protein, and if it was full of rice, we'd call that a portion of carbohydrates, just to be simple, just to give you a general idea about what a portion is. And so that's what we decided to do. Well, after a while, I got the trainers together and I said, look, we don't need to ask them what they're going to eat anymore, because I can tell you what the next person's going to eat, because us Kiwis kind of eat pretty much the same. Now tell me if I'm wrong. Now these people, this was in Te Awamutu, and all these people, a lot of them worked in town, so they got up, they had breakfast before they went to work, and then they worked and had smoko and all that, okay? So say at 7:30, they'll get up. If they have breakfast, they'll usually have cereal and fruit, because it's quite quick. And they put fruit on because they think it's healthy to put fruit on your cereal. If they didn't have that, they might have porridge or they might have toast. It'll be one of those three things or nothing at all. You know, just a cup of coffee or something. And then at 10 o'clock, it's smoko time. So they might have a coffee or a cup of tea and a muesli bar or some sort of snack or maybe some fruit. And at 12:30, they might go down to the shop. At 12 o'clock, they're out. You know, they go down, grab a chicken roll
And at 3 o'clock they might have a coffee, and now you probably feel like something sweet, so they might be having a bit of cake or maybe a Moro bar or something with it, or some bickies, chocolate bickies. And then at 6:30 they'll have their meat and their veggies. This is the typical Kiwi, meat and veggies for dinner, sound about right? And at 8:30 I've put down a cup of Milo, but quite often there's snacks after that, and there's ice cream and all sorts of things. Did you snigger? So, is that like a typical Kiwi? Is that about what we eat? I've put it down into portions of carbohydrates and protein. And the breakfast is 3 portions of carbohydrates and no protein. So, you're eating 3 portions of carbohydrates, and by the way, it's all processed, and there's no protein to inhibit the release of insulin there. So you've already had 2 more servings than you need, and you have no protection of storing more body fat. At 10 o'clock, had a muesli bar, which is generally just all carbohydrates, and it's processed, and that's worth 2 servings, and there's no protein there to inhibit the release of insulin. Chicken roll, I've got 3 servings of carbohydrates and no protein. And the reason I put no protein in a chicken roll was because you won't find 15 grams of chicken. I mean, you'd never find 15 grams of chicken in a chicken roll. This is a really good one. And what they do is they sort of thinly slice the chicken, and then they fill it up with mayonnaise and salad and stuff like that. So there's never much protein in there to do the job of keeping the insulin low. Coffee and cake at 3 o'clock, that's 2 nil. And finally at 6:30, you get your 1 serving of protein here, and 3 servings of carbohydrates maybe. So, and then at 8:30, or 2 servings of carbohydrates and no protein. So if you have a look at the end of the day, you've got 15 servings of carbohydrates. This is the fat making column, 15 servings. And here's the fat loss column, the protein, 1. So if you eat something like that, well, you know why it's difficult to lose weight, and why you might be slowly creeping on the body fat over the years. Now here's the change I'm going to make to it. This next one down here. You'll notice it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way. And at the bottom, there's only 5 servings of carbohydrates, which is a third less, and there's 5 or 6 servings of protein on the other side. And it looks like a whole lot more food. So let's start at 7 o'clock. Okay, why not, instead of having a bowl of cereal? By the way, when you pour cereal into a bowl, you're not getting 1 serving, are you? Because a serving isn't much. A serving of cereal is about that much. If you put that much cereal in the bowls, the breakfast bowls we have, it would look like a little spit in the bottom, wouldn't it? So we pour quite a bit in, and then put some milk on it, some fruit on it, until it's all piled up. So we're getting at least 3 servings, and we're really getting tricked there. And it is highly processed, otherwise it wouldn't taste so nice. So what about 1 piece of toast? This is just an idea. Say 1 piece of toast. Well, that's 12 grams. That'll last you about 3 hours, just energy. So you've got to have your next meal prepared at 10, wouldn't you? You'd need another meal prepared. But let's put some eggs on it. There's some protein, you see, to balance it out. So say you get your breakfast bowl, which hasn't got the wheat bix or anything in it now, and you broke 4 eggs in there, and you got a spoon and took out 3 yolks. So you've cut down the amount of fat. You still want fat. There's enough fat in 1 yolk. And you've got 3 whites there, and now if you scramble it up and make scrambled eggs, you've got 15 grams of protein. And you pile all that on your toast, and you've got a nice big scrambled eggs on toast, and it's a real balanced meal. It's low in carbohydrates and it tastes good. That's if you like scrambled eggs on toast, Now another idea for breakfast, because people like your cereal, just cut down on your cereal a bit and think, what protein am I going to have with this? Oh, I'll put a steak on top of it. So that doesn't work, right? So it doesn't go. That's where these things come in handy, you see? This is where protein powders come in handy. You don't have to buy these things, but they are handy to have sitting on the counter. And if you've got something like this, and you put some cold water up to there, 1 scoop of that, shake it up, you've got 20 grams of protein there, and it's a chocolate drink, and it tastes really nice. That's why I chose that one, because you can mix it up without milk or anything, and it still tastes really creamy and nice, okay? So you mix it up and drink that down. There's your 20 grams of protein, and there's your cereal. There's your 15, 20 grams of carbohydrates. There's a balanced meal again. So that's when these sort of things come in handy. So you come up with lots of ideas. The idea is to make up your own ideas, You know what you eat, and you can just think, how can I make an adjustment to this? Now, at 10 o'clock, I've got rice wafers. Remember these nasty things? And I'm going to have 2 of them. But I'm going to crack open a can of tuna here. This is a sweet chili one, so it'll be hot. And I'll put half a can on one and half a can on the other, and I've balanced out the meal. There's 14.9 grams of protein in here, and 2 of those will give me about 20 grams of carbohydrates. So that's fairly balanced. So now what if I got 2 of these and I put jam on them? I'm putting high GI food on top of a high GI food, eh? So it's kind of crazy, eh? But what about some peanut butter or nut butter? Do you know what nut butter is? Almond butter? Have you tried that?
Health shop,
Yeah, gee, it's nice. It's really nice. So you could pile some of that on, that might be alright too. So there, I'm still eating my rice wafers, but I'm just making sure I'm keeping the GI low. Now, 1 o'clock I've got kumara and chicken. See, I'm pretty boring, and I take this old thing that I've had for years, I'm embarrassed to show it to you, but it just keeps working. And I take my chicken, and there's 2 pieces of chicken there. That's 1 breast, I've cut it in half, and that's actually 2 servings of chicken there. So it's not much, eh? But by the time I put a serving of rice on it, there's my rice, and what else? Oh, some salad, sitting in the fridge. You know, a pile of salad, there's nothing in that, that's just air. But it piles up, makes a big plate. A couple of small slices of avocado on that, you know, and maybe some tomato. You've got what looks like a fairly substantial meal, but it's low in energy, it's low in calories, I should say. It's got your protein to inhibit the release of insulin, and you're actually eating quite well too. So yeah, my meals just sort of kind of get carried around here. You know, if I head off somewhere, my little bag comes with me. I'll tell you what, saves some money too. Now the other things you can do, down here, down the main street, you've got the roast shop, the roast something. Yeah. Now if you go down there and get a roast, you'll get plenty of meat, but you get too many carbohydrates. So what you can do is say, look, give me a one of those late dollar meals, and I'll have 1 extra slice of meat, but just put a couple of roast kumas on there, or a couple of roast pumpkins on there instead. Just don't get the other stuff. And what you'll end up with is 2 meals for that $1, 2 $4 meals kind of thing, yeah. And have one hot, have the next one cold. So, you know, and it's a balanced meal. It's boring, but it works. And so, if you want variety, by the way, someone said to me once, they said, I'd get sick of scrambled eggs on toast all the time. I think, I'd get sick of that all the time. And I said, what have you been eating lately? He goes, I usually have Weet-Bix. I said, how long have you been eating that? Oh, since I was a kid. That was okay to eat that for 42 years. But when he changed to eggs on toast, I'd get bored of that all the time. Then we don't realise, then we start to realise that we are really boring about what we eat. We are in that little thing. And all you're doing is just changing your habit, basically. That's all you're doing, you change your habit. And this wants to be a habit. It's been a habit for me since 1999, so it's been 9 years, yeah. I don't even think about it, it just happens. And you do it for 3 or 4 weeks, it becomes a habit. And unless you do something out of the ordinary, like go on holiday in Australia or something into a food market, and then, and you come back 2 kilograms heavier, and your metabolism is all over the show, and if you just leave it, you'll go and buy food and carry on doing the same thing. But if you just make yourself eat correctly and do some meals the night before, it only takes 1 day and you're back on track again. Yeah. You've just got to actually force yourself to start. If you can make a start, you're right. And it's making the start that's hard for people. You know why? Because they've got to prepare their meals at night when they get home from work. They've eaten incorrectly all day. They're wasted. The last thing they feel like doing is preparing meals for the next day. I'll do it tomorrow. And it never gets started. And when I finally took them into doing it, just do it tonight, they do it the next day, suddenly they've got energy. Even after 2 or 3 meals, they know they've got energy. They're not falling asleep in the afternoon. They get home and they've got the energy. And they go, wow, this feels so good. I'm going to prepare my meals for tomorrow, and then I'm going to get all these ideas. It only takes 1 day. It only takes just to get started. That's all it takes. Bit off the subject here, but I've got kumara and chicken here. Now, these kumaras, by the way, a lot of of women, they say, oh, I've got to cook kurma and pumpkin and all this sort of stuff for my husband because she goes, feed me, woman, you know. And don't give me all that rabbit food stuff, you know. And I say, yeah, cook it all for them because the guys, they need it, you know. Some guys, they can eat themselves silly at night and they're lean and they've got these really high energy jobs. Carpet laying, for instance, you know. They eat and they need to, you know. It catches up with them as they get older because you do tend to slow down and then they're still eating the same way later in life. It doesn't work then. But yeah, so cook it for them. You don't have to have it. You can put it in the fridge and now you've got meals for tomorrow. Have them earlier on the day, like breakfast, the first meal or the second meal around lunchtime. Have them then when you're going to be using up that energy, using it through the rest of the day. Just make sure it's balanced and don't eat too much of it. So you can still have your kurma and that, whatever, you just change when you have it. So we were just discussing, can you eat red meat? You know, because that's one of the myths is that, oh, red meat, it's got saturated fat and so then we'll get fat, so I'm going to cut out all my red meats and I'm just going to eat white meat. Now that's just rubbish. See, fat doesn't make you fat. That's one of the big myths that's been on since about 1980. They decided that saturated fat was bad and they knocked it on the head and they did trim this and trim that. And as soon as they cut out the fats to make foods taste nice, like ice cream for instance, they put sugar in. And then they called it guilt-free, which means you can eat 3 times as much now because it's guilt-free. And what you ended up getting was, instead of 10 grams of carbohydrates and 1 scoop of normal ice cream, you've got now 22 grams of sugar in it. And because it's guilt-free, you have 3 scoops. So now you're getting 60 grams. You're getting 6 times the amount of sugar you're getting, you know? And we're just sort of programmed this way. And it's really unfortunate. So you don't go for things that are too, you know, don't go for light ice cream. Go for the normal ice cream and have 1 scoop. 1 scoop of ice cream is only 1/3 of a banana in calories. You'd need 3 scoops to equal a banana. It's not that bad, you know. Even when I was 2 weeks away from a bodybuilding competition, everyone stopped to get, we were walking back from somewhere, we stopped at the dairy to get some ice creams. It was a hot summer's day. I got a scoop of ice cream in a cone, and I ate the ice cream on the way home, and I chucked the cone because I knew that would be really high GI. And then when I got home, I got my protein shake and had a scoop of protein. And that was my meal for 3 hours. That was my 3-hour meal. Scoop of ice cream and a protein shake. That's balance. Not really healthy or anything, but that'll do, you know. They had an ice cream, I had one. I just made sure, because we were walking home at the time, I'll just have some protein powder with it. It never had any detrimental effect or anything, yeah. Ice cream's not really that bad, you know. It's just eating too much of it that's bad. You know, if you eat a tub after night, at night before you go to bed, you know, that's bad. But then, too much of anything's bad. Think about oxygen. Oxygen's good, eh, you know. Too much oxygen, you fry your brains. You know. Water's good. Too much water, you drown. And too much water, you actually get hypotermia, which is you lose all the salt in your system, which is more dangerous than being dehydrated. So, you know, everything's good, but everything can be bad, too much of it. So you just got to get that balance going and just think, you know, don't overeat stuff. Now, protein, like I said, is a good supplement. You know, it's a good way to keep yourself lean. But too much protein will make you sick.
Yeah.
Fat will do the same job as protein. It'll inhibit the release of insulin. Too much fat, that'll make you sick and probably block you up. It won't be too good. I don't know, probably kill you. Carbohydrates are fine, but too many make your insulin go all over the show and you get bad again. So yeah, it's all about balance and just understanding. So this will give you a lot more understanding so far, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do we got here? Okay, now the dinner time, or the 4 o'clock meal, I thought, oh, let's put some fruit in here. So I put an apple and I put some almonds with it. Apples are about 12 grams. There's enough energy there for about 3 hours. And you put some almonds with it, there's some protein and some fat there. Apples aren't going to give you high GI anyway. I just thought I'd be smart and put some protein with it to make it look really good one-on-one. You could just have an apple by itself, would be fine. Now meat, at 7 o'clock you've got your meat, and here I've got low-calorie vegetables. Remember the low-calorie ones here? These ones here? You can eat stacks of them, you can load your plate up if it's the low-calorie ones. And the low-calorie ones are broccoli, asparagus, lettuce, carrots, cauliflower, green beans, mushrooms, strawberries, spinach, tomatoes, peas, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cucumber, celery, onions, peppers, and the list will be a lot longer than that. So yeah, you can have stacks of that, and you know, you'll load up your plate. It'll look like you've got a decent meal. You're getting lots of different colours, which are really good to get your different vitamins. And by the way, you won't probably feel like another meal after it. You may feel like you haven't eaten enough in the first few days that you try this, because balanced meals are actually small, eat every 3 hours. They're small meals. You don't kind of get hungry, but your blood sugar's like this all the time. And what happens when you first eat the meal, you think, cool, hardly hit the bottom, because we're used to big meals, you see. But it only takes about 3 days. In fact, I think it only takes about a day. But after 3 days, you eating these small meals, even after the first or second day, you'll notice that you start to feel full after you've eaten the meal. By 3 days, you eat those small servings, it's like, I couldn't eat any more anyway. And if you go to a smorgasbord, you're completely wasting your money. You know, because you go to a smorgasbord and I go to try and figure out, well, it's just a waste of money. You can pay $25, you have a bit of protein and a bit of carbs, and everybody's got these big things piled up and you can't fit it in. You have to actually forcibly stretch your stomach again. And after 1 or 2 meals, you can stretch your stomach and you can go and get those smorgasbords and you can go and hammer it again, okay? So your stomach goes up and down, it's really adaptable, your body changes really quickly. Eat a few small meals will feel fine, yeah. But no, we won't go too deep into that. Now, so what we've done here is we've balanced out the meals. We've got 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way down. And at 8:30, instead of having something sweet, if you do want something sweet and something chocolatey, then those protein bars are quite good. And if you've got this sitting on the counter, then you can make a chocolate sort of a shake. A lot of people don't like shakes, you see. Some people really love them, some people hate them. So some people treat themselves to a chocolate bar. Now I would have shown you some, but a lady came and bought a whole box today. She bought the whole lot, and then I realised this one was empty. There's all sorts of protein bars, but generally the bars you find in the supermarkets are things like muesli bars and things like that, and they're all just carbohydrates and sugar and honey and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's just sugar stuck together. Yeah. So these are protein bars are usually made from whey protein and different types of protein.
Do you sell in here?
Yeah, I do get
Right.
those from here, yeah. If you're down in Kirikiri and you go to, you know, Countdown or, you know, those bigger supermarkets, they have the, you know, bit of stock for lots of variety, and you'll find protein bars down there, lots of different types here. And protein powders too. But I tell you what, that there, I mean, I've had protein powders since so I started bodybuilding in '99, and I've been trying all sorts. And when I finally got to this one, I took it around and showed everybody and gave them a taste, and they were going, wow, you know, and they quite often changed over to it.
Mm.
I think that's just about it. Yeah, any questions? Did that in an hour.
Alcohol, we talked about
Oh,
alcohol.
alcohol.
Guidance and stuff. Real problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, it knocks your blood sugar around, eh? And yeah. Probably it would be better to have some protein or eat before you had some wine or something like that. That would work, eh? That might help.
Cool.
How much do you have?
Nothing, not much.
Not much, yeah. And if you're going to do something, oh, by the way, this sort of thing works better if you don't do it every day of the week. So if you say, I'm going to be really good for 6 days, and on Sunday or some day, that's when I'm just going to go there and go back to normal. That's
Yep.
really important. And over the years, I've found that the people that just had the day off did way better than the people who said, no, I'm going to be really good, I'm going to do it every day. That'll be better. It wasn't better. And the reason is because there's this psychological thing about, you know, not being able to get what you want, you know.
Depriving yourself.
Yeah, they're depriving, yeah. And
So that's when you have Fat Fridays.
Yeah.
Fat Fridays.
Fat Friday, yeah. And you can change it, yeah. You know, it might be the boys want to have beers after work. You know, oh, that'll be my day off or something, yeah, you know. It might be little Johnny's having a birthday on Wednesday and we're all going out to dinner or something at the beach going, wow, I'll be right Sunday and I'll take my day off Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you might say, no, just keep me some of that chocolate cake, Johnny, I'll put it in the fridge and have it on Sunday. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do. But for people who said, no, I'll do it, but I can't do it at dinner time, and they just sort of cheat every day a little bit. They never get the results of people that are 100% every day and then take a complete day off. It's way better to do it that way. Any other questions?
Interesting.
Now,
What are the other things you've got there? What are your other
Other
products?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so protein is just the protein part. The reason that protein powders are so popular when you're kind of trying to lose weight is because it's easy to find carbohydrates. 90% of our food's carbohydrates, and some people just don't want to eat meat all the time, you know? Even though it is better to eat meat than to have this, because this is processed, remember? So it's easy to digest. It doesn't quite do the job that eating meat does, because it's hard to break down meat and do stuff with it. This is processed, so it's easy to do stuff with it. But, so it's hard to find protein, you know, like the Wheat Bix thing, for instance. It's hard to put, you know, a steak or chicken with Wheat Bix, whereas you could have a shake after it and you could balance it out. Some people might be at work and they don't want to open a tin of tuna or salmon at work and put it on a rice wafer, so they could maybe try meal replacement shakes. Everyone's had meal replacement shakes or heard of them. You just put a scoop or two of that in water, shake it up, and there's your meal. Complete meal. It's protein and carbohydrates and fat and vitamins and minerals. So it's everything, you know. They can't call this a meal replacement shake unless it's got all the micronutrients too. And micronutrients is what we talk about next week at 7 o'clock, by the way. And that's the vitamins, minerals and toxins and stuff that you get in food and how they affect your health. For now, I'm just trying to get you lean. Just getting lean. This isn't a really healthy diet, by the way. It's just a way of getting lean. It's a lot healthier than eating highly processed foods. And the leaner you get, there's just no, you know, you just get healthier. When you get leaner, you get healthier. Now, just recently, by just talking about exercise, this came to me about exercise. People who have used exercise to get in shape and don't look after nutrition, and they have to do a lot of exercise to get in shape, just because they're fit doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. And the fittest people can have high cholesterol, and fittest people can die of heart attacks and their cholesterol's fine. The fittest people can have high blood pressure, all that sort of stuff. And in fact, it's now been kind of proved that long distance, intense training, all that sort of stuff is definitely not good for you. It's just not. You know, think back to those ancestors again. We were looking for food, we were grazing, we were wandering all the time. And then occasionally, saber-toothed tiger comes along, we took off and ran up a tree. The heart rate went up, the adrenaline came out, it was slow, it was fast twitch muscle fibre stuff. It was quick, it was over in minutes, within a minute, it was really fast, and that was it. And then it was over, things calmed down, you come down from the trees or whatever, and you went back to normal grazing around again. Okay, you didn't go, oh, here comes a saber-toothed tiger, hold on, I'll just stop and stretch, and then I'll jog, warming up, okay, don't chase me yet. And then you're going to run for 10 miles. You don't do that, eh? You just zip the tree. And so it's just not normal. It's not normal to run long distance. You can train your body to do it. Does anyone here run long distance? Okay. Now, if you went out and tried to do it now, how far would you get before you had to stop? Wherever you got to, that's where you should stop. And go for a walk, you know, until you've got your heart rate back again, and you should just run again until you feel like you need to stop. That's good training. Yeah, that's the training for you. That's what you should do if you wanted to do running or something like that way. Me, I just tell people, avoid walking, stop putting on body fat. Yeah, do some fast twitch muscle fibre stuff like vibration training or weight training, strength training. It's fast twitch muscle fibres, burns up energy, and through the rest of the day you're using body fat to refuel your muscle, your glycogen. Now if you go running, jog, or walk, and it's this low intensity fat burning type of thing, what's happening is, yeah, you're using body fat, all right, a little bit more than you are sitting down, but you have to go for miles and miles to burn up any significant amount, and then that night, your body spends the rest of the night refueling the fat stores that you've drained. So you're teaching your body to store body fat. You're just teaching it to do that. So it's just doesn't even make sense anymore.